So, Lois, where are you from?
I lived in Centralia,
Okay.
where I owned my business and worked there. I raised all my children in Centralia. When I met my husband, we were both working at the Hanford Works in Richland, Washington. We stayed there for 2 years. I had 2 babies there. And then we moved to Centralia so he could go into business with his folks who owned the funeral home. I had 5 more children after that. In 1975, he had leukemia that was discovered in March, and he died in May.
Wow.
But I managed to pull things together and go to work at the funeral home and manage it.
How old were your children when their
The
dad
youngest
died?
was 11 and the oldest was 21. I let them know right away, I had to, that things weren't going to change. I said, I made the rules and your dad obeyed them. And it was hard at first. But as far as grieving was concerned, I really didn't have much time for that. I kept real busy with the business and with the kids. And it wasn't until the last child left home that I started to grieve.
Oh.
I was all alone for the first time, and that's when it hit me.
What did you do at the funeral home? You had no experience with that before your husband.
I was a licensed funeral director, but I was not an embalmer. I had to hire men to do that. There were good times and bad times with that because it's a small town, and there were a lot of friends who came in. I remember one family, and they had children the age of mine, and we must have spent a half hour talking back and forth about my children and them and where they were and so forth and so on, you know. And I did work on the funerals with my husband. So it wasn't entirely strange to me, and we had a beautiful funeral home, brand new. Everything was just wonderful. When my husband died, he had a $300,000 life insurance policy. I took a lot of the insurance money and invested it. But that was a career for me, the funeral business was, and I loved every minute of it. There were a lot of men funeral directors who didn't like me, but that didn't bother me. So many people wanted to buy my facility, but I wouldn't sell.
So that enabled you to provide for your family.
I didn't have to wonder about anything. We could all go shopping in the fall for school clothes. I sent 2 girls over to Pullman to go to college because that's where I went. We had a very luxurious life, I thought.
It sounds stable.
Wasn't always stable because I had one son at the time of my husband's death. He was living in a group home. He kept running off all the time. He's an alcoholic. He lives on the streets in Santa Fe. My youngest son is gay. He married his partner about 2 years ago. And then I have another son. He had a breakdown in college.
How do you feel about the way you cope with all the challenges?
I feel like I went where angels fear to tread and did a lot of things that I felt that I had to do. I didn't have a chance to stop and think about it. And then after I retired, I sold the business and moved to Bainbridge Island because my daughter lived there and I'd go up and visit her. I broke my neck at one time. I couldn't drive for a couple of years.
When you broke your neck, were you in Bainbridge Island?
Yes, I was in the doctor's office there, and I fainted and fell off a chair and hit my head.
Did you move to the Mount from your condo in Bainbridge Island?
You might say that. I was in rehab here. I didn't even go home. The kids took me up to an apartment upstairs.
Ooh, I want to hear about that.
Well, they came in and talked to me about it, you know, because we had come and looked here, and I'd asked them, I want to spend one more summer in my condo, and then I'll go. They moved me into a very small studio apartment. It was all that was available.
Here?
Yes, upstairs. Some of the aides said I wasn't very nice to them when I first came here, so I probably wasn't.
Is that true, Lois?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been here?
It was in April of 2007.
Oh, have you been here 10 years?
Yes.
How do you like your apartment?
Oh, I like it because I have the biggest one in the place, you know, right on the end.
And so you really feel it's home?
It is my home.
Have you made
No, I haven't made
good
funeral
friends?
arrangements.
No.
I've got to do that.
Did you ever date or consider marriage again after your husband died?
Never considered marriage. I dated a couple of times, and that was enough. No more. This sounds kind of vain, but I had too much money, and I didn't want to get involved with anyone for that reason.
You didn't want to compromise that?
No. They thought they'd get the funeral home, I think.
Gosh, it's been fun to chat with you, Lois.
When I ran the funeral home, I learned not to talk about myself. Let them talk. It took me a long time to be able to talk about myself.
You've had a full life.
Yes, I have. Never a dull moment. Amen.
Amen.
It's been real nice talking with you, Mitzi. It really has.
Gosh, it's just been wonderful to chat with you.